Hello. Welcome. Thank you for coming. This would be a slightly strange panel for a lot of you, because a lot of these panels tend to be slightly self-ingratiating how great public relations is, and as most journalists will tell you, it's not. Actually, PR people are a blight, kind of like a biblical blight. And in the end, what I want you to come away from this with is something that will give you a real future. And I don't mean a future where you'll bounce around agencies and send out some form pitches, which, if you don't know what that is, for the students in the audience, that means mail merging, sending out one email to 100 people. That probably sucks. I have put together a panel of some of the best bloody journalists that I could find and somehow convinced them to turn up, which was wonderful. And now I have the joy of introducing you, asking them questions and letting them talk. I'm Ed, I run an agency called EZPR. I wrote a book once, that's all I want to say. So over here we've got Jessica Guynn. She is one of the most talented reporters I've had the pleasure. In fact, all of them are, so I'll just cut the lip service there. She is the senior tech writer for US. And my mic went for a second. And she reports on the large players in Silicon Valley, and she has also done on-the-ground reporting via Twitter and her own articles in the actual recent protests, which is more ballsy than most reporters frankly, in and outside of tech, which is really saying something. Following on for her, we've got Matt Weinberger, who writes for Computerworld. He's written for many different publications, actually. InfoWorld, Network World. One time he's called a cloud evangelist, which is not a type of vaporizer, and he has asked me to say that San Dimas High School football rules. I'm not really familiar with what that is. I'm from England. That's not a football team. Anyway, immediately following him is Farhad Manjoo. He's a tech columnist in the New York Times. He's written for the Wall Street Journal, Slate, Fast Company. He's worked for them tens of hours, and in all seriousness, he's a consumer tech reporter, and he's excellent at what he does and beset by pitches and PR people. I wouldn't say any of these people on this panel will say they dislike PR people, but they are annoyed by them a great deal sometimes. And please stop. If you do that, if you think you're doing that, if you get this thing, it's called a soul, just listen to it for once. And then, see, we've got Roberto Baldwin. He writes for the Next Web, and he used to write for Wired, two wonderful publications. He's also a band called North American Scum. Voice of an Angel. Beautiful man. Hi, Roberto. Then there's Ellen Huet. She's a San Francisco-based reporter for Forbes Tech, and great reporter, and writes for the magazine and the online section. Wrote the SF Chronicle as well as SF Weekly. I have no funny jokes there. And then finally we've got Colleen from Techcrunch. She has the beautiful Techcrunch of everything, and she also does Techcrunch TV. She's very good on camera. She actually speaks. She doesn't say every 3 seconds, which is a rarity in any TV show. And her Twitter handle is Loyal Electron. I thought it was local election for a number of years, which is what really you do in England when you're voting someone in that you dislike slightly less than the person who's in power. And yeah, that was embarrassing. How many unsolicited PR pitches would you say you get a day? And just to define this would be an email from someone she has no real conversational relationship with, has never spoken to, run a piece with, just a random bloody email into your inbox.
Well, I wish I had brought my phone up, because it's hundreds, for sure. I could probably give you an actual number otherwise, but I think just by having @techcrunch.com at the end of the email address, somehow I'm on everyone. Alex, also my colleague Alex Wilhelm, he's here, so he can attest this as well.
That is a vulgar
If you actually
gesture.
had Alex up here, he would probably say he hates PR people. That would make things more spicy, but I don't. But yeah, just hundreds, definitely hundreds.
And rest of the panel, would you mind? I would be very curious with Farhad and Jessica in particular. Please.
Is this on?
Oh, it's on.
Okay. Yeah, hundreds.
Are we talking over 300, or are we, like, because hundreds could mean 100?
I guess it depends on what you count as a pitch, because there's lots of press releases too, so I'm not sure those count.
Wait, we'll put it to your face, the microphone. There we go. A little bit closer. There we go.
Hello?
There we go. Lovely. Well, no, all right. So let's even define it even worse. And I'm not going to say anyone in here is mail merged. It's a safe place, except for any of you. And So that means you've just arbitrarily pissed a press release onto someone's inbox. Go ahead, guys.
Well, I think it's expected, so you just ignore it. I mean, it's not like I'm mad at whoever sent it. I just don't even see it. At some point, your eyes just kind of glaze over, and then you're really just kind of scanning for something that's not that's not just, you know, spam.
I don't know what kind of email systems you guys run, but at the times we have Gmail, so it just goes in the promotions tab a lot. So I don't even look at them.
That's beautiful.
So, but I mean, I've started this thing where I ask people to pitch me on Twitter via DM, and I probably only get like 5 a day. People should do that more. You do it a lot.
I sure do. I have a very low ratio to win.
The people that I actually know in PR who are doing a good job, they actually do pitch me via DM on Twitter now.
Yeah, I mean, because I mean, so I accept all DMs, so it's not.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah. So it's not just people I follow, but even then, it's not that many. So it's like so I have basically stopped looking at email pitches.
That's actually interesting and leads on to a natural question. Start with you, Ellen. As you are newer at Forbes, how long have you been there now?
Is this on?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not cool because I only get like dozens of pitches a day.
Yeah,
so it's not.
That's not that you're not cool. It's that you're lucky.
That does not
I
mean
think that's
increase
just
the
because
load,
I'm
people.
newer. Like
Yeah,
I've only been covering tech for about a year. So
Do you get voicemails?
I still listen to my voicemails, but I never want to tell anyone that because then they'll leave me one.
I have everyone in here's name and email, so it's cool.
I mean voicemail is. I get texts. Sometimes people text me. That's
People
fine.
text you?
I give
I've
away my
gotten
cell phone
texts.
number a
That,
lot.
by
This
the way,
a mistake.
is the police will define that as harassment. Well, actually, it's assault. Everyone, call a lawyer now. But you know,
You pitched me over text like 2 days ago.
I was drunk.
It was a freestyle rap.
And you wrote the story.
I'm going.
Well, okay. Then seeing as we're talking about me here, Matt, then we'll move on to the next question, which would be, what's the worst pitch you've ever received, starting with you?
Worst pitch I've ever gotten.
If you answer me, you're leaving.
No, this is actually a really tough question because they're all pretty bad. No, the worst pitches, it's a category. It's not any one pitch, but it's a category of, you've written about Amazon Web Services. How would you like to write about our new line of light bulbs? And
Right, so it's like the unrelated thing.
And it's not even unrelated. It's not even like slightly unrelated. It is wildly unrelated. It's like they were blindfolded and just picked an email address at random. Like, I feel like if they had gone to the YouTube comments,
It's the best when you haven't even written about the thing they said you wrote about.
oh, that's
I've
absolutely
gotten those too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And when they
Hey,
kept
Walt.
people apart. Or when, and this happens at IDG a lot because we
You're
have a
looking
whole
good,
bunch.
man.
Well, we have like a whole bunch of magazines, and they're like, "Hey, I was wondering if we can get coverage for this on IT World," and I'm like, "Well, maybe you should talk to someone who writes for IT World then."
That's just sad, but
Pretty sad.
The other bad category is like the seasonal event, like things for Valentine's Day. That's just terrible.
So many dating
dads and
app
grads.
pitches right now. So many. I wrote about a dating app once, and everyone's like, "I want to prepare you. Valentine's Day is coming." Before you are like seeing dating app talk all the way. I'm like, I don't see it, and I don't want to, and I'm not going to write a Valentine's Day.
and I
timed
clench slightly
story.
asking this question. Do you feel, Jessica, Ellen, Colleen, I hate saying it, do you feel like you get more of those app pitches because you're a woman?
Yes.
Definitely.
That's the most depressing thing of the evening. And
No one's ever
you've
pitched me
all
a
met
dating
me.
app.
They should. They should.
Ever.
Yeah,
Oh,
maybe.
I don't know if that's, is that mean or so?
No, they're fun. They're fun. You get to try them out yourself.
I'm married, but Alex didn't know I was married. I've known him for like 6 months.
Well, then perhaps, Ellen, why did you write that dating app and not the other?
Because it was the one that just did the funding round, the league, and I think there's something in every reporter's brain that goes off like, oh, this will be a talker.
Well, actually,
So-
do you
I mean,
remember
it was
how
kind of
large the funding
interesting.
round was, though?
Yeah.
How
Sorry,
large,
what?
How large was the round?
I think I covered them when they launched and not. They were in the news like earlier this week because they raised like $2 million or something. Yeah.
I'm not deliberately harassing you here, but what made it interesting? Like, what made you actually think, oh, this is not just something I've scraped off my shoe?
because I figured it was a approach to a dating app that some people would find offensive.
That's
It was the least offensive dating app you could find.
No. It was like it had sort of a unique approach. I mean, I guess there are. I mean, since then, I have gotten other pitches from other dating apps that have said, "Ooh, we also exclude people. So wouldn't you like to?" Actually, though. So I don't know. I mean, at the time,
I asked you to stop reading my OkCupid messages a while ago, and
so I don't know. I mean, to me, I feel like people know the concept of like a talker, like topic. Elitist dating apps is a talker. I don't know if I know how to define it. It's just like slightly controversial.
I'd love to hear from you on this, Jessica. Like the kind of the gender bias of some pitches, then, especially the crappy ones.
Oh yeah, when we get really random ones about, what was the latest one about Kegels? It was some, yes.
Fitbit for your vagina,
Yes.
I believe it was.
I didn't get that one. I didn't get that one either.
But look, we both remembered it. But we didn't write about it.
It was memorable.
Seriously, this is a thing?
Yeah, I was like, how could there be a Fitbit for vaginas? And then it's Kegels. That's what they're measuring. Anyway. Actually, I should write about it. That's not a bad idea.
Good story.
Right, it's a talker, and then you'll be getting all of those emails just like Ellen.
But why is it bad for you specifically? Like, what have they missed?
What have they missed
With the cake, or just with what they send? Let's not talk about vaginas anymore.
Okay.
Like in this case, at least for this question, please.
I am pitched on everything that I do not cover.
All right, that's the best bloody lesson all of you can learn tonight. This is a notable tech reporter, and yes, I'm glad you're all silent and looking a little scared, because you should be. This is the PRA industry, as it is at the moment. Very notable tech reporters, all telling you they're just getting shit every day.
Hey, wait, can I just say something, though? I don't think it's that bad.
Happy.
So here's
Yeah,
the
but
thing.
you're not reading your emails.
We're pretending that this is like a really hard job and like working in a mine, like going through.
We got a pretty easy job.
It's
I write
basically right.
words.
It's basically just like a filter that we have on our computers. And I would not like to discourage people from sending me pitches because sometimes, I mean, this has happened several times in my career where I've seen a pitch that was not the right story for me, but like it sparked some idea that became a story, and maybe I mentioned the product or I didn't, but like, you know, everything I see is like something that's an inspiration for an idea, and I definitely
in life or your inbox?
Huh?
In life or your inbox?
No, in my inbox. I mean, and the other thing is like, I've noticed that there's a correlation between people who are persistent and like how often I write about companies they pitch me. Like, if they like persist and like get to talk to them on the phone, they might get a story. Like, it happens.
Would the rest of the panelists agree? Of the persisting with calls
it depends.
and emails?
I mean, if you just have a bad pitch is a bad pitch regardless. I don't care if your CEO is a serial entrepreneur. That just means he failed a lot or he sold a bunch of crap to Google. I don't care. I don't care. I want within the first sentence or two what the product is. What are you selling me? If you can't tell me that in the first two sentences, if I have to go three paragraphs down, I've already deleted your email. It's gone. I don't care. But if you have something that's intriguing, or even if it's not intriguing, at least if you pitch me correctly, it's least likely to end up in the junk folder and maybe in the save later folder. I'm like, well, this might be interesting, you know, and to Farhad's point, it might be something that sparks an idea. But if it's just a bunch of crap at the top of your email, I'm not going to read that. I'm going to delete that as quickly as possible.
Well, also to Farhad's point, again, is that I think the people who are harassing you, that means that like you actually have a relationship with them. They're not just reaching out to you opportunistically, misspelling your name and getting your beat wrong. You know, it's somebody who reached out to you about a story that maybe they read and was like, oh, that Uberization of everything story, that was an awesome story. Good job. No pitch there, like just letting you know that they saw it. And then if that same person reaches out in a few weeks about something and it's a relevant pitch, you know, you have a relationship. It's not just this opportunistic thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean,
Do PR people just email you and say, hey, great column?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I got that a couple times.
The good ones do. Ed actually reads stuff and he knows us.
Ed
You know,
can't
he
read.
knows
Usually
people.
Ed
He
just
actually
can't
follows
read.
things. You know, and there are a few, like all of the best PR people that I actually do work with, and I notice their name when they were pitching me something. They're people that you know you have conversations with that aren't just when they're pitching you.
Yeah, I mean, the people that I respond to are the people that I get to know on Twitter, or I get to know in person, or who I talk to because they approach me, for example, about things that I care about. I mean, one of the big things I've done for the past year is cover Silicon Valley diversity and the incredible lack thereof. And the people who follow that work and comment about it in social media or read it or send me emails about that are people that I remember that I develop relationships with. And relationships are really important. They should come long before there's any pitch. I am on multiple email accounts at USA Today, so I see a lot of stuff that comes into general email accounts, and I'm offered an exclusive to my email address, and other people are to other email addresses at the same time. So, I mean, we tend to just ignore that stuff. But if you have a relationship, you get through.
And the great irony of this is, I really hope this is actually the dating app you wrote about. There is literally a dating app that just came out where it says, okay, this exact same message got sent to 10 people. So that one goes like, hi, I'm a CEO.
Oh, that's a different one. But
it's
yeah.
Should have. Well, no, you shouldn't have written about it. Dating apps are rubbish. I'm so alone. But this leads into something though. Phone pitches. Someone picks up the phone and says, "Hi, I got a story for you. How'd you feel about them?" Starting with you, Roberto.
Don't call me unless you have an appointment to call me. I'm not going to pick up the phone. I don't have time. You know, I'm usually writing something or editing something or responding to email. Because of the hundreds and hundreds of emails that I'm getting all the time, I'm just, okay, I got to spend an hour a day like, no, maybe, no. And so when I get an unsolicited call, I don't have time to pick it up. And the person's like, do you have a few minutes to talk to me about random thing that you've never heard of? And I'm like, not really. So most times I let it go to voicemail. If it's someone I know, you know, if you have a relationship with people, and you end up having a relationship with the people in PR who are doing a really good job. Mm-hmm. It's not like I just have a relationship because, you know, hey, you're a nice person, that's great. But if you're doing a good job in PR, I'm going to pick up your phone call. I'm going to respond to your email. I'm going to talk to you about something. Even if I don't write something about it, you know, I'm more likely to have, you know, at least a discussion about it. But just unsolicited phone calls, I look at them, and I just put my phone back down, and then I go back to work.
So I would agree with that. I don't want cold calls over the phone. I mean, cold calls, I guess. But then I use the phone a lot to, like, if I see a pitch that I like, I often respond by phone because I just hate email generally, and it's just faster to have a conversation. The thing that I hate is someone sends me a pitch, I call to ask them more about it, and they usually have no more information than is in the email, and that is the worst. Like, I'm definitely
Let me talk to the engineers.
Yeah.
Let me get back to you. And you're just like,
right, like, I don't, because I'm not, at that point, I'm not sure if I want to write about it. I want to know more so that I can decide if I want to write about it. So I definitely I'm not, like, willing to commit to the time to, like, interview. Like, usually what they want you to do is, like, interview the CEO or interview whoever. And I'm, like, not ready to do that at that point because I don't even know if it's interesting. So, like, I think, you know, if you should expect, if your pitch is good, you should expect people might call you or just email you, and, like, you should have the information about the thing.
To that point, it's the
Let's just continue. Sorry,
Well,
man.
I don't want to give everyone the impression that we're a bunch of prima donnas. I mean, the problem with newspapers lately and other publications is that we have a lot less money and a lot fewer resources, and there are a lot fewer of us. So whereas we used to be able to pick up the phone and take that cold call or respond to every email, those days are over if we want to keep our jobs. So it's not that we're being callous, we just have to be really efficient with our time. And one of the best things that happened to me was when I joined USA Today from the LA Times in May, my desk phone somehow never worked. And it actually has been accepting voicemail since May, and I've never heard any of it.
That sounds
I can't
amazing.
pick it up.
And also, don't be a rude asshole like I just was to Matt. So Matt, please speak.
Oh no, just to that, to both of your points actually. The annoying thing when you go to pick up the phone or you want more information, and then you get blindsided with the CEO interview or whatever. That's giving an inch and taking a mile. Again, we don't have all that much time. We don't have that much bandwidth. And when we say, hey, yeah, we'd like to know more, and you say, great, the CEO is going to call you in 20 minutes, that's, again, a huge imposition on our time. And that happens more often than you might think, just because we're not always ready to sit on the phone for half an hour. And the assumption that we are can be that can damage a relationship because it makes me not want to work with that person again.
And I get super cynical and I think, like, is this person paid by the CEO appointment?
Right.
And I just think that, or are they paid by the email, or are they paid by the phone call? And I just feel like they're just racking up the bill on behalf of their client or whatever. And it fosters distrust.
Absolutely.
I think I wanted to, also add, two things. Going back to what Farhad said about, like, sometimes pitches can be intrusive. Like, I don't hate pitches. I think what Jessica's pointing out is kind of the major drawback is just a strain on time. Like, you're spending time. Sometimes I look back, I'm like, oh my God, I haven't gone through all my unread emails for the last 5 days. I'm gonna set aside half an hour and delete every email so that I don't have this 400 unread email thing. And by the way, we have Outlook at Forbes, so it's a lot less visually appealing to go through my email.
I'm so sorry.
So we do. I'm sorry too. It was something I hoped to upgrade when I got my new job, but alas. Anyway, so it's a time thing. It's like going through every email, and I don't really mind. 'Cause sometimes they are funny or interesting. I got pitched a smart water cooler once, put near the pool and
the
it locks
Kickstarter.
with your. Yeah. I was like, no, not the cooler, not the cooler. This was different. It was like lock up your beer by the pool, and I was like, okay, that's funny. Whatever. It doesn't upset me. I was just like, I don't cover this. Bye. And I don't know if you guys do this. I usually sometimes just try to respond to some. If it's really off base, I say no, thanks.
I know.
I don't know if I hope you guys aren't
I
offended.
wish I had. I tried to do that, try to respond to pitches and
maybe
say
I'm like
no.
the young lamb
and
here. I still am gonna say no.
Yeah,
to
I
you.
don't. I just don't have time.
Yeah,
but
but I do I do sometimes get pitches where I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more. Or someone will email me with an expert that I actually want to talk to. That occasionally happens. Sometimes I'll get pitches. I'm like, oh, that is interesting. So I'm not opposed to the idea sifting. It just takes time. So that's all. And if I respond to you and say no, please don't say, oh, who else at Forbes can I? I'm like, no. But I was gonna say sometimes I want to find out more, but I don't want to commit to a story. And I feel like that's an awkward thing where I respond and I'm like, cool, your data sounds interesting. You're right, I did cover this. I am interested in finding out, can you send me more? And they're like, here's a bunch of stuff. And it's either not what I'm looking for. Maybe I should call them. That's not a bad idea. But and then they follow up more. I feel like I'm offending them if I also say no afterward. I'm no, it sucks. I
stopped worrying about that a long time ago. If I talk to you, if I take a meeting with you, if I sit down with you, if I talk to your CEO, if I share emails with you, it doesn't guarantee a story. That's right. You should just understand that right away. If a reporter gets back to you and wants to know more, or they take a phone call with you, or if they go to your office, your client's office, and sits down and talks to the CEO or the head of engineering or whoever, that doesn't mean there's going to be a story that comes out of it. It does, it will give that reporter, it gives me context for later stories that might be in that realm. But I tell people, I'm like, just because I went and talked to CEO X doesn't mean I'm going to talk about your company or I'm going to write about it. I might never write about it. So it's, yeah.
Tell us about the best pitches and the best subject lines. What awakens your interest?
And I like Chris a great deal. And he also literally just asked my next question. There's going to be a 15-minute question and answer session at the end. I'm also really glad you were not gesticulating that my fly was open. Now, please, Royal, walk over the microphone so that Chris can ask the question I was going to ask. Oh,
yeah, we heard it.
So, I really don't think there's a best pitch. I think there's so many different kinds, and it really depends on the match between the product or the company and you and me as the writer, and what I generally am interested in. So I really think we're talking too much about the pitch. Really, it's if there's I don't care I don't care what the subject is. I usually read a lot that comes not in the promotions tab, not the press release stuff. And if I see it, I'm going to consider it. and it's not. I don't think the pitch is that important.
I think the doing your homework. I got pitched for TMZ the other day. I worked at TMZ like when it first started. I was a reporter there a long time ago. I'm still, I still have PTSD from it.
Mate,
I
have been in
pitched.
public relations for 6 goddamn sad.
That was like 4 jobs around. 4 jobs ago, I got pitched for something from 4 jobs ago to my current email address.
No, but seriously,
about something I would never cover, and then I get pitched like the wrong name. I think we all get that. And of course, you go online, we all make fun of those on Twitter. But just do if you just do some homework about, the person that you're pitching to and make sure it works with your client, then that is like really half the hurdle. And if you can make it concise, I mean, to me, if it's concise, like you're just like, this is what it is, this is why you should care, and then, you can add all the other, this CEO like graduated Stanford at 14, who cares? You can add all that stuff later.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that because I think that conciseness is really important, and the subject line I'd argue with you. I think the subject line is super important because PR people who know me and who have done their homework know that even if they don't mention a vendor, they know what interests me. So instead of saying client X does this or does machine learning with this, they say, hey, this company, this thing that you said nobody would ever do in that story, they're doing this thing. And that's a really good subject line that gets my attention, and it makes me more likely, maybe I just have a short attention span, which I do, but it gives me more juice to sift through the actual release or sift through the pitch and put in the effort of sifting out the 2-sentence, what does this actually do, from the rest of it.
Well, I think that the one thing to take away would be to personalize what you do. Don't send form releases out. The way that I would approach a story at USA Today, given my interests, will be very different from every single person on this panel. It may not be the story that your client's necessarily looking for, but knowing what it is that I would write will actually get you ink, and that's more valuable. So that's what I would encourage is we notice too, if you really know what we cover and what interests us and you're taking the time to appeal to us personally. It definitely makes a difference.
So let's go the complete other way. What are the pitches at the moment of the time that are just straight up throw in the bin, burn laptop, leave country bad? What are the ones like the Uber for X, I'm guessing is one of them. What are the ones at the moment that you're getting? Start with you, Ellen, and just move on from there. It's just, what are the ones that are just please, God, stop?
I mean, I think Jessica's pointing out a good thing, which is it's not a particular pitch that's, I mean, whatever, you might have a company that isn't interesting and that's hard to sell, but you just might have ones that aren't the right fit for me. And so, I mean, there's nothing wrong with well, nobody likes a Kickstarter pitch, I think, but I was going to say there's
that's good.
Well, except, I mean, I just usually feel like it's a little early. Whatever. There's a time and a place for a Kickstarter pitch. I don't want to say they're
I hate to lead the witness, but that's actually a thing that I've heard multiple times. So please do elaborate on the Kickstarter pitch thing, and anyone else, please talk about it. If this is an issue, they should know.
I think the Kickstarter. I worked very briefly in the style section at the San Francisco Chronicle, and we got Kickstarter pitches like 7 a day for it was just always like clothes stuff and like, please cover our Kickstarter. And I think the problem is there's nothing proven about it and it's just an idea. And then there's this immense pressure from the person who's pitching, says like, we're starting today or we're ending today. And I think what I always prefer is like a pitch that, like I might come back to it someday. If it's a good idea, I'm just busy this week. So I think when you limit yourself in terms of when the time is that like you need this to go out, I think to me that's what makes Kickstarter pitches kind of stressful. Everyone's like, we need it now.
I mean, it's a little difficult because there are lots of blogs and other sites that cover Kickstarter pitches or will post them. So I don't want to say like a blanket, don't send people Kickstarter pitches because like
the potato salad one, like
someone's
we'd cover it, right? Yeah.
Weird thing.
But I think you should know that there's like the New York Times is not going to cover your Kickstarter campaign. Like, it just doesn't happen. And I've said multiple times on Twitter, like, don't send me your crowdsourced pitch. and I like get that all the time. And I mean, it doesn't bother me. But it's just obvious that people aren't listening.
Or like but going back to Ed's real question, it's like it's a pitch, that just if it's a pitch that I don't cover, I'm just not gonna. I'm not even. I mean, I might respond, but like I'm just not gonna want it. It's not that it's bad, but if it's about like Horton Works, I'm like I don't cover that company. I've never even covered, said anything about their IPO or anything about enterprise.
Well, I think what people miss is that it's also kind of our reputations on the line too, because if you go way off base, even if you do take that story and you say, oh, this Kickstarter looks interesting, or oh, this Horton's Work story looks interesting, you're flying outside of your comfort zone, and or outside of your assigned lane, and that's not really something that we want to do too often because it kind of diminishes our respectability or authority in other avenues, I think. If we write about a Kickstarter and it goes the way of every Kickstarter scam ever, that makes us look bad by extension. Look at Ship Your Enemy's Glitter is a good example of everyone who covered it seriously, everyone who covered that story seriously now kind of looks a little silly, just because of how that story panned out. And by taking the chance of writing something fun, you have like a 75% chance it's going to blow up in your face.
But so I have a question about it might seem like a bad idea to pitch me. As I said, I don't like crowdsourced pitches, but then I was just thinking that I've actually gotten pitches for Kickstarter campaigns that I've then tweeted. So is that good for your clients? I don't know. Like maybe then that's great. Maybe you should keep pitching me because I've tweeted at least 3.
Sometimes we don't cover like culture stuff at the Next Web. But I like sci-fi nerd stuff. I'm a nerd, and I love music stuff. And sometimes people will pitch me that, and I will just tweet it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm just opening the floodgates for Huet right now, but
I'm going to be honest though. I'm speaking from personal experience. This has happened multiple times. Lie to your clients all you want. I've had this happen multiple times to multiple reporters. It does me exactly dog and shit. So I mean, this is just personal experience, and I'm glad you guys say that you'll do it, and it might get one contribution, but it is
if you're lucky.
Yeah, if you're lucky.
It won't be for me. I don't have that kind of money.
I actually contributed to a client's product the other day. It was crazy. But in all seriousness, now I actually want to ask Colleen specifically about this because there is a very high bar for it, but TechCrunch does cover Indiegogo and Kickstarter projects. So what makes those work?
I don't know. I guess it's just similar to Ellen's, like why you covered, the Vault or whatever that thing. What is it? The League. Yeah. The League.
It's
yeah.
a bad name because of the TV show. I'm just going to put that
right.
out there.
It's like the direct opposite of that show as well.
It's kind of like you know it when you see it or when something is kind of catching attention. So yeah, we totally do cover that kind of stuff. We cover a lot of different things. So yeah, I would say to tip someone off to something that's interesting that's happening, and then try your luck. I mean, we all read all of our emails and we read everything in the tips box. So we do read we look at everything, we scan everything. But one thing in terms of bad things that can happen, I was trying to think of what people often mix up, because it's not just about the pitch, it's also about the execution as the story is going on. And I would say just to be very careful about correct usage of the word exclusive, or because this is the one thing that will like piss me off still, and
you will burn all your bridges if you tell a reporter they're getting an exclusive and it's not an exclusive.
Right.
They will never talk to you again.
So this is like a story of an amazing pitch and then something that just totally didn't work out. That happened to me in the past week. It was something someone had pitched to me, what was billed as sort of an exclusive. There was funding involved, but it wasn't quite funding, and I don't want to give away too much about it. But so I was very excited about this company and what they were doing, and I met with the CEO, and we had a wonderful time, and I just really was excited about writing this sort of longer story about the company's progress and their work to hire engineers when they're not doing something that's typical. And then I get an email from the CEO on a certain day. I thought I had all the time in the world to write this up, so I was kind of waiting, a week or something. I had other things on my plate. And he said, oh, just FYI, VentureBeat is maybe gonna write something today, so. And he said, but I didn't really give them as many details as I gave to you, and all these different things. And I understand he's in a pickle. His PR representative had set this up, but she had billed it to me as an exclusive. And then I said, well, okay, if that's going to happen. And then they ran the story, and then anything I wrote would seem like it was following because it was really from this funding angle. Anyway, don't do that. if it's an just know the meaning of the word exclusive. I don't think that there's any bad feelings on anyone's part.
Well,
but
let's actually go ahead with this, and I'll tell a very, very short story. One time I ran an exclusive with someone, which was basically they ran it half an hour before everyone else. Now, this was
that is not an exclusive, Ed.
Exactly. It was 4 bloody years ago, and I won't name the reporter, but Jesus, well, I'll never do it again. I mean, I have heard some swear words in my time, but not that articulately. So an exclusive.
Yeah, we will rain hellfire down upon you if you tell us something is an exclusive. An exclusive is you are the only person that knows. It is just you. I am the only person that company X is told about product Y. No one else knows about it. They haven't talked to New York Times. They haven't talked to Techcrunch. They haven't talked to anyone else. That is an exclusive. I write that up, and then everyone else gets mad and emails that PR person and says, how come we didn't get this? But that's what an exclusive is.
Well, then, further on, anyone else just talk. Everyone talk at once. So an exclusive should be, in your minds, I am asking, just they send one email at a time. Do you want the exclusive? Yes, no. Great. Just, you got that? You got it.
And then you don't give the information to other publications under embargo and then only give the interview. Because that's what happened with this one. They had assumed that an exclusive just meant that I got the only interview, but that they did send the information and a release or something to VentureBeat under embargo. It was just kind of a mess. I thought that it was just my story and I had the time to work on it and really write something, and then, the headline is this company raises X million dollars, and the story wasn't just going to be about that. It was going to be this longer story, but then I just spiked it.
So you're an exclusive relationship, but you're still on OkCupid, right? But I feel like, Jessica, you've got something to say on this as well.
I don't know. I mean, there's nothing that will make a journalist never speak to you again. Like, I've had people say, oh, well, you were the national exclusive, and then there was the local exclusive.
Wow. Everything on the internet is national.
It's an open exclusive.
It's actually international.
Yeah. I mean, it is the third rail, the worst possible thing you can do. I am a very mild-mannered person, but there are people who are so dead to me that I rat it out to everybody. I mean...
Do you keep like a list?
It's not very long because people don't do that very often, thankfully. But yeah, I mean, still, my blood boils this day when I think about it.
Which leads so nicely into my final question. And I would love to hear from all of you. You can be as anonymous as you want. Has there been a pitch that's so bad or a situation so bad that you have burn listed or burn noticed, depending on which spy shows you watched, a PR person or indeed agency?
No.
Thanks, Farhad.
Me also no, but I feel like maybe if I'd been doing this 10 years, I might have a different answer. But for now, it's
good news for everyone.
I had someone, they called me the day before Thanksgiving at 11 p.m. at night. 11 p.m., I'm on the road driving to see my family, and they called me to tell me about whatever bullshit thing they were trying to get me to write about. Yeah.
Why weren't they doing Thanksgiving?
And they were, I have no idea. There's just a sad person, or maybe they were like, hey guys, are we having fun? Hold on, I gotta make a call.
I can't carve this right
and
now.
And from that point on, that person is dead to me.
Roberto,
that PR person. And they were all very aggressive whenever I had to deal with this person.
Thirsty randos.
Just like about their whatever bullshit thing they were trying to get me to write about. Yeah. So I think for the most part, there's bad PR people. There's who send you stuff who I'm never going to write about. But I mean, I haven't burned them. I just assume they'll get better, or maybe they'll go to another agency where they learn more. Or
I'm trying to think of all the people that I have vowed in my head and maybe said internally on Convo, which is what we use at TechCrunch to communicate. I mean, I think all of us have probably said at some point, like, screw this person, never work with them, like, what a mess, this is always a mess when I work with this person, and then we all vent. But then if that person comes to you in a month with an awesome client, you're going to write about it and you're going to work with them again. And I can think in my head of the people that I've thought that about, and yep, I've worked with them again because they've got great clients. So
Which
go
is
out and
how
get great
every
clients.
big crappy agency has gotten away with form pitching forever, by the way.
Yeah, you can do no wrong if there's actually a really good client there. I mean, we, just like all of us can probably be jerks at some time, but then if we write good stories, you're still going to say, I hate that girl, but I'm going to pitch her again because she's going to do a good job with the story. It's like, just get good stuff and then people will still work with you.
So I think Matt's got...
Yeah, I was just going to say that I've never burned an agency, or no one's ever been dead to me. Maybe I'm too nice. But I do know that if I need something in a hurry or a really solid answer, I will go over someone's head at a PR agency and go to the boss, or I will go around them, or there's people at agencies who I know will drop everything to help me. And I will go around the person who may actually be on that account or on that client.
I skipped the agency altogether. I just called the client.
Again, it depends on what it is. Sometimes I do that, but it's not super nice. But sometimes you don't want to be jerked around.
And so the great lesson there being, don't be bloody useless idiots and call people on Thanksgiving. And now, with great pleasure, I open. Well, first of all, thank you to all of the panelists. You guys are wonderful. I'm going to thank you again after the questions.
Better.
Shut up. and in all seriousness, we now open the room. We've got the beautiful Royal Jamie here with microphones. Please put your hands up if you have a question for the panel. You have roughly 15 minutes. Don't be afraid.
Like there's one.
Go on.
Well, so I think this has been really helpful and really, I think, confirming of a lot of our gut feelings. So I really appreciate the honesty. One of the things that Colleen mentioned was relationships. And I think any of us that have had a great relationship with a reporter, we really value it as well. But I will say I get anxious to reach out if I don't have news because I don't want to waste your time. So what are some things that are a good middle ground there? I know that's the $1 million question.
No, but that's a really, really good question. And one of the things that some of the people that I'm closest to are people who help me on stories that have absolutely nothing to do with their clients. I've had people, I would say, I'm trying to find, I'm doing a story about messaging services and what teens use. I'm trying to find teens. My little brother on the phone in 20 minutes. I mean, things like that are invaluable. And again, if you want to talk about, or you want to find someone, I am always looking to talk to really interesting African Americans and Latinos who are in tech. And if you know people, I mean, those are the kinds of things that you can do, which help forge and cement a relationship that, people remember. I remember those people. I will always take their calls. I will always respond to their emails. I will tell them flat out, no, that sucks, and I'll never cover that, but I love you.
I use Twitter a lot, and I think that's like a relationship with me.
Yep.
So like you could tell me my story's good or bad on Twitter, or just like respond or whatever, fave my tweets.
Because he looks at every fave.
Don't you have Mike for that?
Right. No, but so I think like Twitter has become this sort of tech PR journalist networking place, and I think you like I just see people's faces there, and then that becomes kind of like a relationship.
But as far as forging a long-term, relationship, I know that a lot of my long-term PR friends are people who, when I was first starting out, they just invited me out for lunch and they were like, "Hey, I think we can do something for each other." And now, almost 5 years later, again, I take all of her calls, I take all her pitches, I tell her which ones are good and which ones are bad. But it's also because we were sort of in a similar position, I guess, and we were also actually friends. If you're hanging out with someone you don't actually want to be around, that's going to show pretty quick one way or the other, or vice versa. Yeah, just saying.
I was trained to hate PR and to hate everyone who is associated with the person you want to talk to or the company you want to talk to. So it's taken me it took 8 years for me to not hate PR anymore, which I guess I don't know.
And I mean,
but yeah,
but
I still kind of hate Ed, but I can't help it. But I am more than happy to if I took meetings. I took like 2 meetings this week where there wasn't news, but it was a company that is in the space that I cover, and they were like, "Hey, would you like to talk to this company? We don't have any news. We just want to kind of like sit down and talk to, about, the future, what we're talking about, what we're going to be doing. And I was more than happy to sit down. And I actually talked to an agency the other day about, like, how could we do a better job? And I'm like, yeah, I'll totally sit down. I will talk to you about that. I'll carve out time to sit down and talk to you over Skype or on the phone or in person or whatever. So, it's and then that helps me because I know they're not going to be pitching me things that I don't care about anymore.
Next question.
Hey, my question is, what are your guys' day-to-days like? Are you coming in and writing an article first thing in the day, or are you reading through pitches and then writing articles later? And then I know it's varying from different publications, but are you writing 1, 2 articles a day, or do you have more flexibility?
I just write as many articles as I need to write. I know that doesn't make any, but I come in and the first thing I do is try to skim through my email really quick and see what the news is. And then I'll probably write a few news items. If I have an idea about like a hot take or whatever they're called now, I'll write that up. I'm the only San Francisco reporter for the Next Web, so I am at every stinking event. So I go to a lot of events, and while I'm there, I'm checking. I'm constantly running until I stop working, and then I go and sit on the couch and then work some more.
I'd actually love Farhad to answer this as well, specifically because we've got. He, as a columnist specifically, so start with how much do you write a week and then go on.
Yeah, I write 1 column a week. So
I hate you so much.
Wow. So how's that go?
It's usually about Alex. Yeah, so I spend a lot of time talking to a lot of people about what that column may be, and I would say about half of my conversations with people are things that never pan out, but like they could be a column at some point, and then half of my conversations with people during a week are about that week's column, and then I'm on Twitter a lot.
Beautiful thing. Jessica? I want the full sample set here because it's important to understand that there are different kinds of people who write about things on the internet and on the television and on the online print. So please.
Well, our days are really unpredictable. It depends on whether there's news breaking. We have people on the East Coast who are up earlier than we are who grab some of those first things, but as soon as I'm on, and sometimes I'm still in my pajamas, I'm filing. And then I'm juggling a lot of other things. We created a landing page for our diversity coverage, so I solicit a lot of guest columns from African Americans and Latinos, so I spend some time on those. I'm working on features. We do a lot of work with crunching data around diversity coverage, so I'm spending time with people on that. So some days are slower than others. Some mornings are often very busy. Slowed us down a little bit. As soon as everyone goes home on the East Coast, our days tend to pick up again, so they're very long. Tech coverage tends to just keep going and going. We're in really kind of a 24/7 news cycle all the time. And there aren't that many of us here in San Francisco covering it, so.
I think it'd actually be valuable for Matt, Ellen, and Colleen to answer it, because really the full spectrum of journalism is important to understand. So Matt, then go in order then.
Yeah. I try to write at least 1 a day. Some days, again, it goes with the flow of news. But we are never going to compete with Techcrunch or NextWeb because Robbie is a friggin' monster. I try to write at least 1 a day, something longer and more considered. But some days there's just a lot of short hit news items with email interspersed with a lot of Twitter in between. Like a lot of Twitter, you have no idea. Yeah, but generally around 1 a day, I'd say.
I'm probably maybe 3 to 5 a week. I think most days, we probably have this, like most days I wake up, I look at my email, I'm like, make sure there's nothing absolutely like super important, and then I like to work in the office, and then I go in, and then I'm like I'm on Twitter, like if whatever.
How
I mean,
does
I'm
the-
like
how does the
looking.
print
I'm always
fit
like
in,
looking at
though?
Twitter to see kind of what's happening, make sure I'm
Yeah.
not missing anything big, and
Same.
then looking at my email, and then just like working on whatever's next. Like I don't do a lot of breaking news, so some days I'm like, I'm just gonna spend today working on whatever. One thing that I thought of when everyone else was talking that's unrelated, I just don't want to forget it. If I reach out to you proactively, say like, hey, I want like your, this so-and-so CEO, like comment on this thing. Like it may not be the story that you want, but like if I'm asking, that's usually because I'm like, I came up with this idea and I'm really into it and I really want to do this story. So like anything that when people help me make it happen, I'm always very grateful. So I think one of the things like for example, I'm working on a story right now about there's a company and there's like 3 different executives that I'm trying to like, they're all in different places. I'm trying to juggle, like I have 3 days to do it. I'm like, I need to interview all of them now. Like the PR person is extremely helpful to me right now because she's like, okay, I'll call them here. I will be, she's like super responsive even when they're not. She's like, I'll find him and make him available to you. So like when it's usually, I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's like when I actively reach out, it's usually because I like want to do this story, and if you can make it easier for me, like that's great, and like it's more likely to happen, and that you can usually take that as a signal of like I don't know, like of much interest as opposed to like responding to a pitch. But yeah, no, my day is usually checking email, sometimes writing something if something is happening right away.
Do you find one final edition, because you write a print publication, that changes at all, like specifically for print magazine?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's like we don't actually print that often. It's like 18 times a year, and most of the stuff I write is for online. So if it's a print thing, there's maybe more handling needed because you need to set up a photo and you need to do fact checking. You have all sort of a higher bar for the process that something goes through. But
yeah, if like working at Wired, people would pitch me something. They're like, we have an exclusive for you, or whatever, and we want to be in the magazine. And they would pitch me, we want to be in the magazine in January, and they would pitch me in December. Or like magazines usually have like
so
a 3
for the
months.
student.
For Wired, I know it was like at least 3 months. 3 months before the magazine went to on sale, we already locked down what was going to be in that magazine.
And just for those we do have some students in the audience, so just explain that. How far in advance do you have to pitch for a magazine?
I know for Wired, you're talking like maybe 4 months before something's going. Yeah, it's really difficult for embargoes because people are like, oh, we want to do this, but we want to do it under embargo. And I'm like, okay, this is when the magazine comes out, and if that doesn't work with your embargo, I can't help you. You need to and it's Wired, so everyone wants to be in Wired because it's Wired. But Wired for the most part doesn't put a lot of products in there. It's a lot of think pieces and longer pieces, and this is a thing that's happening, and here's the future, and here's a robot, and whatever.
So Colleen, sorry, I've just moved.
Well, I was hoping that we'd just progress because I'm really bad with time management and my days are just dumb. So,
I'm on it. I've got a
yeah,
clock and
no, we
everything.
do. I working on video. Just wake up and I need a better schedule or something. But generally, I was on a book leave this past fall and I'm still working on the book, which is a mess. But and so coming back into things, I've been a little bit more considered with my time and the kinds of stories I want to write, and so I'm not writing as many stories as I had been, trying to work on more sort of considered video pieces that we're working on producing, thoughtful kind of series like our Inside Jobs series that we did last year. We're doing a second season where we're talking to people who are not just CEOs but do other jobs in the tech industry and are kick-ass at them. And then just any stories that kind of catch my eye. So I'm always working on a story. It just, you never know when some lawsuit is going to come to you from a source like it did with me today. And then I dropped everything on the floor and just did that, So it's just always a total mess. But at Techcrunch, I'll say that also, I don't know how other publications work, but we all talk. And so if there's something constantly all day, we're always just chattering with each other on our sort of virtual newsroom thing. So if there's something that you send to me and I'm like, well, this, I don't really have time for it, or that someone should cover it, we'll make sure that someone covers it. Or someone else will probably pick it up if they find it interesting. So, it's not just me, it's everybody.
So we have time for one more lucky question, and then anyone, or I'll just close this off. There's one. Oh, there's someone stole.
Given that you're all in tech and it tends to be kind of overladen with buzzwords and hype cycles, and I realize you all cover different beats and trends, but are there any, and you have different interests, but are there any trends that you're really sick of hearing about and would have no interest in ever covering and don't want to talk about again? And if you have any particular interest that you're really looking forward to for this year, would love to hear that too.
I actually hate to do this. We asked that question earlier.
I'm just going to say Kickstarter. 99.9% Kickstarter is worthless.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Well, we have time for... We'll give the man his last question. It's just we literally asked that one. So, sorry.
So, like most people here, when I'm pitching, it's typically because somebody has told me to. You know, my boss. And in the agency world, at least, there seems to be kind of a vacuum of talent in the middle. You know, people like me, entry level, probably everybody here, you know, just panicking for a job out of college, you know, and everybody at the top just paid your dues, cush, just, you know, do the strategy. But in the middle, if you're good, you go in-house or you go to, you know, some cooler, easier job. So typically the people who are delineating who gets pitched are not the people who really should be. So if I'm pitching...
You're exposing all the secrets of PR right now.
No, and I always know that in my mind, I'm always, anytime I get a call that's unsolicited, I'm like, I can just see your manager being like, get on that phone and make those calls. And I know that that's probably what you guys are going through.
Sure. So is there and this is probably the totally wrong place to take this question, but is there a agency that is particularly bad? So I'm looking for a job, where should I not go?
I can tell you an agency that to me has worked out really well, and that's Outcast. That's a good agency. That's a good agency. So everything under that. Don't go to EZPR. I've heard some crazy shit about those people.
I know. Are you guys judged on metrics? Or they'll be like, get on that phone and make those calls, or send out those emails, and if she didn't respond, send it again. Like, you know, it's just, I feel like, there's this old model. Yeah, the phone thing. And, you know, but sometimes you do get on the phone, and sometimes that does work, and it's just, but I think just dictating like that from management is so bad, and that's why agencies...
Your boss should be here so we could tell him what's up.
They're cushy. They're in their houses in Marin, chilling.
Like, if someone sends us a bad pitch, should we respond to you and your boss and say, like, this was a bad idea?
No, it's on us to edit them, customize per target. But
the funny thing is, like, I have no idea how PR works. Like,
So then, do you
like
have
magic?
So you're required, you know, they tell you, okay, send out, so like, I'm imagining, this is what I was imagining, first pitch, okay, 2 days later, like, circle back pitch. 3 days later, like, just checking to see if you're interested. And you know what? I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes the second round it gets to me because it's at the top of my inbox.
True.
I'm like,
sometimes
I don't want to say don't do
it
because like
round.
if I'm not into it, I'll ignore it. And if it is into it, like,
No
now
one to
I
walk
saw
away.
it. But anyway, is there? And even when people call me, it doesn't even really bother. I'm like a phone person. But anyway, the point is do you guys get like a better performance when people respond? Like, how does it? So even if I just say like no, like, is that helpful to just say no?
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Responses,
God.
a response.
Sure. Okay. Well, I mean,
I've got some emails to send after
we
this.
Stop. If you say no, we stop. That's it. Because then we have that email from you in our inbox.
Yeah.
We can then forward to the team, says this person responded, they're not interested.
I will
then
send
that
you
goes
all
in
the
the media
no's.
list as not interested.
I would
And then
totally
it's like-
respond.
Oh, so there's a
to
list.
every
Oh,
email.
man.
Oh my
Those are
God!
crazy.
dude.
I'm learning so much.
Let's just keep this talking.
You should hear the things I know about like List and like Apple. Like, I'll tell you later.
Well, I would totally respond to every email if the response then wasn't, who else can I pitch?
Yeah,
in
so
your
that's true, yeah.
organization?
Yep.
Well, because then I'm going to ignore that one, right? Because I'm
Yeah.
no, yeah.
Something else real quick. So in addition to, that's fine. I think I'm allowed. Hey guys. So in addition to managers breathing down your neck, which I'm a manager, I know it's really effing annoying. I think at the end of the day, clients breathe down our neck, and I think that's the hardest response to, because any good PR person will be like, they don't effing care, like, lay off us. We haven't heard from them, like, give it up, we did our jobs, like, there's another route we can take. I think the no is helpful because then the client understands. So I think that's the best PR person will still struggle with the client.
I would love to send no's if I didn't have so many emails to go through. I'm sorry.
I'm lucky. I
feel bad when I don't. I'm like, I can't. I don't have time to I just delete. Even deleting takes too much time.
Thank you all for coming. I really mean it. I do appreciate you taking the time, and especially learning from everyone here, because the goal is not to, no PR person's goal is to hurt anyone's feelings, but as an industry we tend to, and you actually touched on a point where clients breathing down our necks. My only response to that would be is sometimes you just have to tell the client to shut up.
Which is a fun part.
Which is my favorite part of my day. But in all seriousness, good news, my microphone's dead. You can either go home, or there is the 2 hours of free full bar people to enjoy. Some journalists have to head home. Please don't pitch them, but by all means, create a relationship with just talking to a human. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you.